Welcome. I'm Frank Gerard. Welcome to this interview, another interview about this wonderful book that I had the honor to narrate, all about Dorothy Kilgallen, or put better, as Sarah does in her book, The Incredible Life and Mysterious Death of Dorothy Kilgallen. You gotta get this book. This is a fabulous book. I'm not just saying that because I narrated it. I wanted to narrate it. In fact, I reached out to Sarah and asked if I could narrate it because I enjoyed the book so much. I'm honored to have with me the author of the book, Sarah. And Sarah, I'm always getting your name wrong, but it's Sarah Jordan Hines.
Sarah Jordan Hines. Yep.
Sarah Jordan Hines. It's Heinz, not Heinz. Not like the ketchup.
Yes. We're not the
Heinz.
ketchup fortune, unfortunately.
Got it. Sarah
Yeah.
Jordan Hines, welcome. Sarah, I wanted to talk about this. Now, one of the reasons I so wanted to narrate your book and the reasons I enjoyed it so much, one of the many reasons is there's a lot of there are books out there about Dorothy Kilgallen. This is not the first book about Dorothy. There are others, some that have been out for a while, maybe a little more famous before yours came out, and I read them, and I was left feeling a little hollow because um, without going into details or naming names, I just felt they didn't check all their facts and they didn't have everything that you have. Your book, the facts are so well checked, so well documented. You're a journalist, of course. Um, Starting with something that is only in your book, and that's all about Ron Pataki. Talk to the viewers about Ron Pataki, will you?
Yes, Ron Pataki was a much younger man who met Dorothy about the last 15 months of her life. And there has been speculation that he was involved in her death and had been following her under surveillance, that type of thing. And I think a popular theory out there that I disagree with other authors is the Carlos Marcello mob angle, that Pataki worked for the mob. And I just don't see evidence for that. You know, I have his school records, and he was at Stanford University in 1954. And we know this is the time frame when the CIA was establishing a presence on campus. And just through what I know about his education, it was fluent in Spanish. And he had an interest in the Foreign Service. And he got into a little trouble that summer and was expelled. And I believe, based on what he told my father, fellow journalist Larry Jordan, over a period of several years, that he went to Guatemala and was involved in that very well-known coup in Guatemala that summer of 1954, and that he was highly trained. He had an interest in what was really a paramilitary operation. And I don't think that when he left that he severed his ties with the CIA. I think he was potentially involved with Operation Mockingbird. And he worked for the Columbus Citizen Journal, newspaper in Ohio, that sent him all over the world. You know, he had met Dorothy on a Sound of Music press junket and knew celebrities, knew politicians, and I think the government CIA payroll was funding that ability to travel. And I just feel like that makes the most sense, especially as you follow Dorothy's columns, where she is putting a lot of pressure on the government to reveal information about Oswald and hinting at a coup, like the 7 Days in May movie. I think she was very much feeling like there was government involvement. And we know that Harry Truman, former president, felt, I think, the same way. You know, I talk in my book about a month to the day after the assassination, he wrote that explosive op-ed that appeared in newspapers all over the country, talking about the CIA's power is unchecked, it's exploded, it's gotten to be out of hand, it's very cloak and daggerish. And the point I've always wanted to make about that is think about December 22nd, 1963. This is days away from Christmas.
November 22nd, you mean? You said,
Well, the day of the op-ed is what I
oh,
was
you're okay.
Truman's op-ed,
Yeah,
yeah, a
okay.
month later. So here we are.
Shame on me to,
Oh,
to
that's okay.
question your facts
That's
because your
okay.
facts are always just spot on. Go
It's
ahead.
okay, Frank. It's okay. Um, but what my point I'm trying to convey here is we're days away from Christmas. The nation's in mourning. We've had a new president for a month. Same party that Truman belongs to,
Yeah.
let's note. And what is on his mind? The CIA and it's abuse of power. And I think Dorothy was pulling that thread, and I think Ron Pataki was government intelligence. I think that's where the facts lie, and I think if there's mob involvement, it's very peripherally involved.
If Ron Pataki had never met Dorothy, do you think Dorothy would have lived many, many years longer?
I think potentially, but I think he was placed in her life at that particular point in her career and her investigation, her work on her book. And I don't think it was, um, this random meeting in Europe. I think he was planted, and she certainly liked younger men. Johnny Ray, she had a very
Right.
tumultuous affair with. Being a fellow journalist, I think I can certainly relate to enjoying talking to other writers, kicking around story ideas. Can I read my lead paragraph to you? What do you think of this?
Right.
And I think he was very well positioned to infiltrate her inner circle. So if not him, perhaps someone else would have been recruited.
Sure. And of course, in a future episode of this, there's so much to talk about. In a future episode of this, speaking of Johnny Ray, we want to talk about Dorothy's children. Not today, not today. But there's so much about that. There's speculation and you cover it all in the book. You cover all
Yes.
of it. Um, Talk about two caskets.
Yes, I feel like the evidence, the eyewitnesses, the testimony, very credible people, both at Parkland Hospital in Dallas and Bethesda Naval Hospital in Maryland, are some very credible voices. And so I certainly tell people that while this is a very comprehensive biography on Dorothy and exploring her death, I'd be remiss not to have included information about the Kennedy assassination because the case was so important to her, and I believe is what got her killed ultimately. So I do piece together that day in Dallas and hope that people stick with me through this kind of crazy saga, if you will. So there were always the theory based on these eyewitnesses and testimony that there had actually been two caskets. One that flew home with the family that was empty, and another that contained the president's actual remains, and it was altered, to have a chance, sadly, with the corpse to probe it for bullets, remove evidence, surgical procedures, and why do people think this? Well, there are drastic differences between the wounds that were seen in Dallas and as they appeared on that autopsy that Bethesda Naval Hospital conducted. And so when you're thinking about how would you get two caskets out of Parkland, here's what I came across in my research that I hadn't seen anywhere else. The day of the assassination, there were news bulletins that a Secret Service agent had been killed in the line of duty. This person was never named, and it was kind of a blip on the radar, one day news story that was never explained. And I think that death notice was planted with the media in case that there were two caskets seen coming and going, that this would be the cover story, that this is the other person who lost their life, perhaps in the motorcade incident. And it was just never spoken of again. And I've never seen any justification for clarifying this or retraction or who this alleged person had ever been. But we know that no other Secret Service agent was killed in this incident.
Fascinating. Fascinating stuff, and I just, once you start reading this book, you're not gonna wanna put it down. And, I told Sarah this is we're talking out of school here, but I told Sarah before we started this, I said, "Sarah, this book is selling a lot. We're selling a lot of books. We're selling a lot of audio books, and it's wonderful. It's not, it's gratifying because so many times there's a great book written and it just doesn't sell because people don't know about it. This book is selling and word of mouth is spreading like fire about this. So again, The Incredible Life and Mysterious Death of Dorothy Kilgallen, written by Sarah Jordan Heinz. You get it online on Audible, Amazon, of course, and the audiobook on Audible. And again, I just loved narrating this, and I've enjoyed I've read your book, by the way. I think I'm on the sixth time now because every time I reread it, I find a little gem that somehow I missed earlier. It's just so chock full of
Nice. I
information,
appreciate
all research. Sarah Jordan Heinz, thanks so much. We'll talk again maybe in another month, okay?
Sounds good. I
Thanks a
appreciate
lot.
it.
Take care.